So I've been thinking about this new like James Gunn DC Universe announcement thing, and this new DC Universe is a lot, and I have a lot to say about it. Some skepticism, some things I'm really excited about, and I just thought it was an interesting topic to dive into because I like talking about movies, and as you guys probably know from watching the Q&A videos and stuff, I really like comic books, so this is kind of like a match made in heaven. Now, as you guys probably know, the DC movie universe has kind of been all over the place for a while, from the Zack Snyder stuff to Batgirl being canceled to like who's Batman, what's going on with the Flash, like all that stuff has been a mess, and now there's basically a kind of restart with James Gunn and Peter Safran heading this up, and they have put out a video announcing their intentions moving forward. After the stuff that rolls out like The Flash and the next Aquaman, there is plans to roll out a new interconnected DC universe managed by James Gunn, but individual things written and created by people, and also tying into film and animation. And I just can't help but look at a lot of this stuff with extreme skepticism. I'm usually Mr. Positive guy, but I guess after talking about movies for so long, I'm pretty much it, and elsewhere on the internet, there is a theme of this stuff where it's like, yeah, great ideas, but it's like, can you get there? I think, I mean, like, we've talked so much about the old plans for the DC universe. There was supposed to be a Cyborg movie coming out. They had so many crazy things that never happened. Then there's just other universes that have tried to kick off and never got anywhere. Remember Dark Universe? I feel like I was the only idiot that was excited about that a little bit, but hey, whatever. But the thing here, the different thing, that like, oh, maybe this time it's different, is James Gunn. DC, Warner Brothers, seemingly are putting a lot of faith in him to head this up, and ultimately I think he's the right person. They are definitely letting him really kind of do a lot of whatever he wants here. They are leaning on some of his more eccentric choices and his appreciation for the smaller characters and kind of making weird stuff out of it and possibly bringing them to mainstream, like with specifically announced a movie around the Authority, just a deep dive on Amanda Waller, who isn't an obscure character, but to have a whole breakout show, presumably not with superheroes, is interesting. And then Creature Commandos as like their first animated thing. I mean, like, he had done it with Peacemaker, he had done it with Guardians of the Galaxy. Like, it makes sense. But anyway, I'm getting ahead of myself, and I'm not going to break down every single individual thing, but the things that I have something to say about it, it's the fact that the whole new thing, or this start, is called Gods and Monsters. Now, James Gunn has went on the record, like, speaking to people on Twitter and whatever for a couple of weeks now, stating what's going on. And he very early said that he was taking a lot of influence from Justice League Animated, Justice League Unlimited, and that must be further down the line, I guess, because this lineup seems like a lot of different random things, and like I said, some of the weirder, quirkier James Gunn stuff, and then some big mainstream stuff. The big thing, and what he said is, and I quote, "The true beginning of the DCU is a Superman movie that he's writing called Superman Legacy. This is slated for 2025, and whoo boy, they have a tall order, a huge task in front of them, dude, with the whole Superman thing. I talked about this in another video, but some of you guys maybe didn't catch it. But ultimately, I'm still burned about the Henry Cavill thing. I really like Man of Steel, but Henry Cavill as Superman, I think, is really damn good, and I still think he never really got the shot. We never really got a full look at him as a Superman, and I don't even mean with like Zack Snyder's interpretation. I mean just in general, I think he would be good, and the way it is now, that's gonna be tough shoes to fill. I mean, just like the other day, I was like bored and having some beers, and I fired up Superman Returns because I haven't seen that in a long time, and when it came out, I remember thinking it was all right, you know, the Bryan Singer film, and I like couldn't get through it. I was like, man, Brandon Routh, like, I don't know, man, like this is just weird, and I think that's just like, no offense to him, and he's gone on to do cool things, but I think for me, it's like, damn, like they really had something good with Henry Cavill, just like they had something really good with Christopher Reeve, or like how Iron Man has Robert Downey Jr., you know, like it's just like significant. That being said, I am just excited for hopefully just a new, hopeful, a little bit more traditional, straightforward Superman story. I think we need that. You know, the world is a suck sometimes. So for an optimistic, hopeful Superman tale, I don't know. That's something I'd like to see. Now, the image they showed in the whole preview thing was one of the cover images for All-Star Superman, which I hope is not quite the story that they go for. They can take elements from it. I think that will be cool. But yeah, the Lanterns thing, this like HBO show, this HBO Max show that's going to be kind of like a Hal Jordan, Jon Stewart thing that's going to be like True Detective, them solving mysteries around the galaxy, is very interesting because obviously a lot of people are itching for like real good Green Lantern representation, and I think it's pretty brilliant to have both of them featured in a thing. You get the best of both worlds. A lot of people want Hal Jordan, a lot of people want Jon Stewart. Cool. I'm still getting to the point where, and with everything I talk about, like, are we ever even going to see this? Like, are we ever going to get to that point? I want to keep that theme going, but conceptually, it sounds cool, specifically with how Gunn also said that they're going to be uncovering this mystery that then also connects into the rest of this DC universe thing. Then there's Paradise Lost, which is focused around Themyscira, and by them kind of billing it as sort of like a Game of Thrones type of thing, like this is the business sense side of it where I'm like, okay, we have a bunch of different things. We have an Agents of Steel S.H.I.E.L.D. style show with Waller. We have a Game of Thrones type show to appeal to those types of people who are into those types of things. We have the big movies with Superman. Like, they're trying to cover all the bases. They're doing the weird, obscure stuff for the nerds. It seems like a good move, but for me, a couple of things. The fact that Booster Gold could eventually get a show, I think is really good. I think don't discount that. Booster Gold is prime material for good shit, especially if James Gunn is overseeing that one. I know he said that he wants to let the storytellers, the filmmakers, the writers do their own thing, but I think he could nail that specifically. I mean, the fact that he introduced it to a lot of people who've never heard from him, heard of Booster Gold as a loser from the future is good. But then the fact that there's also going to be a Swamp Thing movie with a horror tone, that's good. That's obviously very much like, I feel like at that point, it's like it's so far away and they're just telling us what we want to hear. But I do want to hear that. Swamp Thing is dope. That short-lived show was promising. So yeah, a Supergirl movie specifically around Woman of Tomorrow, I think is a good move. I haven't read Woman of Tomorrow, but it seems like a good bet. It seems like people really dug it. But then of course, at some point, they did state that there is going to be a movie called Batman. It's The Brave and the Bold. And this is going to introduce this new DC Universe's Batman. And this is going to be specifically based off the Grant Morrison run with Damian being introduced, Damian Wayne as Robin. And that is really interesting because I am hot off the presses of just rereading a lot of that shit. How convenient. And I think that's not... Where's my pen? Oh, I think, I don't know. That's not what I would have went with. I am all for new, unconventional, weirder Batman stories to be told, to be introduced to mainstream audiences. It's why before it came out, I was pretty interested or pretty excited about Gotham Knights for a Bat family story to be a mainstream thing. This has the opportunity of doing that, but like, I really just wish the other Robins got love first. I know it's like, I also just don't like, I like Damian later on, but like when he was first introduced and set up, I just don't like that arc. I like other elements about it, but I don't really like the Damian part. But I have like this wild fan theory, okay? What if they set this up, but it's Dick Grayson as Batman? So it's Dick Grayson as this Batman temporarily. Damian links up with him. That's their way of kind of having a new Batman, but maybe not taking the heat or the wind out of the sails of the Robert Pattinson Batman 2, which is separate. It's a whole different thing, but be kind of a slick way to give audiences something completely different and introduce the Bat family for real, like they said they want to do. You have Dick Grayson as Batman. That's kind of fresh, right? Am I getting crazy here? Should I slow down? But like, to go back, like, I'm not trying to be a downer. It just feels like a weird, like, first choice to reintroduce people to Batman and a Batman in a fresh new universe, you know? I don't think it can like directly adapt that Grant Morrison run, but like maybe partially. But again, could be really cool if it's Dick Grayson, Batman, and Damian, and then Bruce Wayne is dead, and then like they kind of do this like long build up for him to come back to life and make that like a big event, like an Avengers Endgame, like if we're comparing cinematic universes, like type of thing. The return of Bruce Wayne. I don't know. I'm just doing that like comic nerd YouTuber movie speculating thing, which I try not to do. But either way, I still fall in line like where I love Batman, so I'm open to whatever. I'll show up. I always show up for Batman. I'm that guy. But I'm at the very least ready for another like different type of Batman here, some way, shape, or form. Now, my other big concern with this whole thing is they were quoted as saying probably 2 movies and probably 2 HBO Max series per year. I worry about oversaturation. I've worried about it with everything, with Marvel movies, with Star Wars becoming a big franchise. You know, it's hard to keep that momentum up for a long time. Also, like, it's great that they have this long-term commitment. They said this is like the next 8 to 10 years to start things off. But I also just think a lot of this is going to rely on the Superman movie, Superman Legacy, which is billed as the true beginning of the DCU 2025. I'm excited that they are kicking it off with Superman. I think that's a good way to do it. But a lot of it comes down to, like, is that going to be good? Are people going to dig that? Are people going to be clamoring for more? I hope so. I'm confident. I think they've screwed up enough times and they've tried a bunch of different things. This could be the time. But then moving forward, I worry about them just keeping that going and not oversaturation. And, I think the fact that James Gunn is not like an executive first, I think him being involved, it definitely helps. He knows what it's like to work on these movies, these shows. He knows what it's like to have studio pressure, corporate pressure, I assume. So it could be a good bet. The other stuff, like there's the film, then there's like the animation and TV, and then the video game stuff. With the animation stuff, what I do like is that they're going to have kind of bouncing back and forth, like the actors, they're showing up in the cartoon, then they'll be showing up in a live action thing in this universe. I like that. I think when Star Wars does it, it's usually very cool. That's been more of a recent thing, and I like that. Now the game universe is interesting because that's like a big undertaking, and I don't really think any other one of these big corporate brands have really taken that on. I mean, I guess Star Wars, like that stuff is canon but Star Wars is Star Wars. Like the fact that Marvel hasn't tried to do this, I think says a lot. Like it's just like, oh, that's too much, because making games is a complicated process and these things kind of ebb and flow in the process of making these movies. But hey, you know what? If they really are going to go for it, cool. I am just happy still, like with this whole new DC universe, I'm happy that it's still open for new and weird interpretations and one-offs, like Joker or the Robert Pattinson, Matt Reeves Batman. Like I'm glad that stuff can still exist and thrive, because I like building universes. It can be fun and have this ongoing storytelling, but I still think there should always be room for different expression, different interpretations. You know what I mean? So it's so early for any of this, the world could explode. I'm just kidding. I mean, it could, I don't know. So who knows what's going to happen tomorrow with this stuff, but I like talking about stuff like this sometimes as like a time capsule to then look back and see how wrong I was or how right I was. Usually always wrong, but thank you guys for listening to me talk about this stuff. I appreciate you sticking around here with me. If you like what I'm trying to do here, I'm literally just talking stuff I love, stuff I'm interested in, which is comic books and movies and video games. Clicking the like button does help me. Thank you. But that's it. I'm going to go. Lots more to talk about soon. I'm Jake Baldino. Subscribe because video games, pizza's on me.